Vexes are one of the most mysterious and interesting mobs. But what's the story behind them? And how is it connected to Herobrine? Let's find that out. Long ago, the Minecraft builders were situated on an island away from the main continent of the Minecraft world. On the island, two different clans, one led by Steve and other by Herobrine, were constantly at war with each other. The island was slowly sinking into the ocean, and Steve was the first one to notice it. Understanding how dangerous the situation was, he proposed to Herobrine to stop the war and work together to get the people off the island. But Herobrine denied, thinking that it was a plot to kill his clan. Seeing that there was no way to convince Herobrine, Steve challenged him to a 1 versus 1 fight whose winner would rule over all the people on the island. Steve won the fierce battle, and as the ruler of the island, he ordered to build ships to escape the island as soon as possible. Fortunately, all the ships were built in time and the builders fled the island. After days of sailing, the builders landed on the main continent and settled near the coastline. The continent was inhabited by two tribes, one that we now know as pillagers and the other that we now call villagers. Few decades ago, the pillagers had defeated the villagers in a war and taken the survivors as slaves and became the rulers of the continent. One day, some guards from a nearby village noticed the builders' settlement and reported it to the elders, while on the other hand, Herobrine was plotting to take revenge on Steve. However, when he went to his former clan members for assistance, everyone turned against him and complained about his rebellion. Herobrine was thus banished from the settlement. While all this was happening inside the settlement, an army of villagers were marching toward the builders, for according to them, they owned all the land and everything and everyone on it. Though the pillagers had the advantage of surprise, they were no match against the builders' intelligence. After defeating them, Steve and his men went to the inner parts of the continent to talk to the leaders of the villagers to prevent another bloodbath. When they reached the nearest village, they found out about the situation the village was in. After seeing this, Steve could not bring himself to abandon the villagers and think about his own people only. Steve talked to the pillagers about freeing the villagers, but they denied, leaving Steve no choice but to use force. With most of the soldiers already dead in the last fight, it was not very hard for Steve's men to take care of the rest. Steve freed the villagers and took them under his protection. He soon came to know that this village was not the only one. That entire continent was under the control of the pillagers. After hearing this, Steve decided to free the entire continent from the tyranny of the pillagers. Steve with his army went on to free one village after the other, adding more soldiers in his struggle against the pillagers. However, he could only free villages far away from the pillager castle, as he could not afford clashing head to head against their main army. But under Steve's leadership, within a few years, his army became strong enough to fight head to head against the pillagers' main army. Around the same time, Herobrine returned from his exile, and now that he had learned magic, he was even more stronger and evil. But what exactly happened to Herobrine during the exile? The subscribers may get to know. To get revenge from Steve, Herobrine approached the pillagers to help them defeat Steve, but the pillagers did not trust Herobrine, so they denied. But Herobrine could not accept a no as an answer. So he killed the leaders of the pillagers and became their new leader. The soldiers were too afraid to go against Herobrine. He started preparing for the upcoming war. Herobrine wanted certain doom to fall upon Steve and his men. He decided to use all the magic he learned during the exile to build the strongest army in the world. Herobrine extracted the souls from the soldiers and formed an army of souls that we now know as Vexes. These Vexes could pass through any block, making them perfect for surprise attacks. Steve was marching towards the pillagers' castle with his army, hoping to finally put an end to the tyrannical rule of the pillagers. But what waited for him at the castle were not pillagers, but some ghosts and his old enemy Herobrine.